Hello and welcome to today's episode of Expert Diaries. This is Expert Diaries 23, and today my guest is Kath Pei, and we are going to talk about 11, 11 email marketing best practices or tips for the year 2021. But before beginning the interview, I want to introduce Kath. That is, Kath is an email marketer who has an experience of over 22 years. It was in 2009 that she, uh, you can say, coined a term or brought out a new approach for email marketing that's called the holistic approach. And apart from this, Kath is a renowned email marketing expert who has been a part of over 150 conferences. And she is also an avid blogger and a writer as well. Currently, Kath is the CEO and also the founder of her email marketing consultancy organization, which is also named as Holistic Email Marketing.
Yeah,
So did I miss anything, Kath? You want to add anything to that?
got it all. I think you got it all. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so Kath, the thing is, firstly, I want to ask one question to you. That is, what is your philosophy? What is the governing philosophy that you adhere to when you talk about email marketing or when you are advising someone regarding email marketing?
Sure. Um, okay, so I abide by the philosophy that I preach about basically, which is the holistic approach. And that means that we need to be looking less at us as a brand and being less brand centric and more of the customer and their customer journey. Now,
Okay.
email as a channel is one of the most called upon channels throughout the customer journey. And I'm not just talking about a buying journey. I'm talking about the customer journey with us as well. So their life cycle. Yeah. So basically, what we need to do is start to put the customer at the forefront of everything that we do and understand and look at their journey and basically ask ourselves the question, how can we help them to achieve their objective? Because this is the beauty about it, right? So because email is a push channel, and because it's really easy for them as brands for us just to push out our messages. We have our goals, we have our objectives, our KPIs that we have to meet. We have products that we have to shift and all the rest of it. And so we tend to, because the push, channel, we tend to focus on what we want to push out to our audience, right? If we actually flip it around and we start to think about what does our audience want from us, why did they actually come onto our list in the first place? Why have they put up their hand and said, hey, listen, I want to be on your list, I want to hear from you? It's generally because they've got a need. What is their need? So we need to be asking lots of questions. Why is a good place to start. So what is their need, and why are they on the list? And then the next one is how. How can we help them to achieve their objective? Because at the bottom line is that if we help them to achieve theirs, then we by default will achieve ours, right? It's really, really simple logic, and it's effective. It works. And so what that ends up meaning is that we will be delivering them an email program. We'll be delivering them individual campaigns that are more appealing, more palatable, more helpful. So I call this helpful marketing.
So it's basically trying to keep the audience in the highest level of priority. It is to see to it that apart from engagement, we have to see to it that all the requirements are met properly.
Yeah, and definitely. So all the basic things, everything that we read about, it comes into being, but it's kind of like a change of mindset, and that change of mindset then comes down to actually affect and change your strategy, so that your
Right.
strategy is less about us, we, the brand, and so sometimes it's as simple as actually just changing the copy. and making it more about the customer. Because it's a hard fact. So email is one of the most, in fact, it is the most successful channels, right? It delivers the highest ROI year upon year upon year. So, which is fantastic. And we're doing that, we're achieving that with us doing not even the best job that we possibly can be doing. And I say that not as a criticism of marketers, because it's often the way it works with email marketers, because we are such a popular channel, such a relied upon channel, we tend to have to churn out campaigns. We are under-resourced, under-budgeted, because often the C-suite will go, well, why do I need to invest anything more into this channel? It's already working. It works better than all the other channels. So, which therefore, though, leaves the marketer feeling very overworked. So because of that, though, and that's what I'm trying to do, is like with a change of mindset, not even any additional budget or technology like that, with the change of mindset, you can end up getting better results, which is going to hopefully bring more value and more, budget into the email channel, which should then, as an email marketer, relieve you of some of your, crazy burden that you're doing, the endless churn of emails. Because you should have hopefully extra staff. I don't know.
Now that we were talking about, seeing to it that if we keep the audience first, then strategies have to be kept in mind.
Yes.
Now, in the year 2020, we know that uncertainties have been aplenty. And we know that when there is a certain change in plan, that certain change in plan will also reflect in the email marketing strategies. So there have been situations where people might have had to change their strategies based on certain uncertainties that have just cropped up. So how do you see it panning out for the year 2021? Are the email marketers going to be very alert, or is there going to be any shift in their strategizing? What do you see? How do you see it? What's your take on this?
No. I think 2020 has been a huge learning curve for most marketers. They've not been able to rest on their laurels and sit back and just say, okay, everything, business as usual, everything's going to be the same. It's not, but by any means, some businesses are doing much, much better, and some businesses are doing much, much worse. So, and oftentimes it's not actually their fault. It's because the needs of the market have changed, right? And so that means, as email marketers and as marketers, we need to be reacting and responding to the needs of the market and changing. So, those that, the variables are huge, right? So you've got, those that are in a luxury. You've got people who are actually earning. So in the UK, some people are earning more money than they would normally. So they can splurge on luxuries that they normally can't afford. But then there's a whole heap of people in the UK who are earning way, way less than they used to, if anything. And so therefore they're looking at the basic necessities. So what you need to do is be reactive and understand who your target market is. Analyze it. Has it changed? Have their needs changed? Have their situations changed? How can we be more sympathetic, more empathetic? How can we be helping them to achieve their objectives? In some cases, so I've got a couple of gifting brands as clients. And so, we kind of did a little bit of testing. We went very much, instead of the, because they both do personalized gifts. Instead of sort of going with the personalization, it really was an approach of, you can't be with your loved ones, so give them a gift to show them that you care, right? And it was picked up really, really well. And so they've both done incredibly well because of this particular season. It's gifting, and not everyone can be flying the miles. Not everyone can be even catching a train or driving. Depending on the restrictions within your particular country or state or city even. So it really is a case of just going back, looking at your data, understanding the economy, understanding the situation, and like I said, if you are a multinational then as well, and you need to do your homework on everywhere,
Yes.
because your communication is going to be different according to their particular situation
Right.
at that particular time. And keep in mind that the situations change, don't they?
True. Very
Almost.
true. Very true.
So it just means that we need to be reactive as marketers. And I personally think it's an exciting thing. It's challenging, of course it is. And for those email marketers who already are, rammed with regular work to do, it's another, challenge that they have to embrace and try and overcome. But at the same time, I still find it exciting because it means that we as marketers are really, really calling upon our knowledge, our expertise,
Yes. True.
experience.
It's like how quickly we can understand the volatility in the shift in the market.
That's it. Yeah. So challenging times, and by all accounts, it doesn't look like it's going to settle down anytime. And even when it does settle down, I think that these lessons that we've learned are going to carry forth with us, and we can still then use them accordingly. Obviously, hopefully, there won't be further pandemics that we have to be reacting to, but these are still incredibly valuable lessons for a marketer to be learning.
So it's adaptability that we have to keep in mind mostly in this case.
Yes.
So talking about adaptability and uncertainties that we have seen in 2020, there is one more thing that has gained the prominence in 2020, and that is virtual meetups and virtual conferences, virtual webinars. Everything has taken a virtual shift in this case. So prior to this, when most of the things, I am not saying that virtual things didn't exist, they did, but our dependency on the virtual platform has increased a bit. So prior to this, when there were webinars and conferences, acquiring contacts or lead generation was done in quite a manual method, which had its own benefits and its own drawbacks at the same time. Now that it has taken a virtual stance, I am not saying it's a paradigm shift, but it's kind of a shift to some extent. How do you see, like, what kind of drawbacks can email marketers face while acquiring leads, while getting contacts and the information? How do you see this thing changing completely?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it makes it easier for us, I think, because it just means that we've got a very nice, neat list. As long as we've implemented our permissions correctly, and we are, gaining them legally and with everything else in mind, right? One of the biggest challenges I find, though, is that, again, like you said, you need to be adaptable. Now, for us personally as a business, we've always had all of our resources, our newsletter, everything always been basically, we have forbidden any personal emails because we found the better quality leads always came from business emails, right?
Yeah.
So that makes sense. And so therefore we accepted only business addresses, email addresses, sign-ups to our events, to our newsletter, to our resources, everything. But now we've gone and changed it, and we're accepting everything. And the reason why we're doing that is because there's a lot of marketers who are currently unemployed, and or maybe they have issues with their business address, working from home or something. There's a whole heap of different scenarios. So we made the decision to actually open it up and accept all of the personal addresses. Now, the problem with that being is that we've now got a database that's not just filled with business addresses, which in the UK is different. So under the PECA legislation, it's a different legislation. Well, it's the same legislation, but they've got different rules for collecting business addresses as you do for consumer addresses. So now we've got a lot of consumer addresses on our business database. And so we have to be very mindful of that. It also makes it more difficult to understand as far as lead generation goes and about warming them up and all the rest of it. So you've got lots of different challenges. You've also got deliverability challenges, different deliverability challenges, right? But we made that decision on the basis that there's a lot of people who still want to be learning during this period. Even if they're not employed, they're going to hopefully be going and being employed at some stage in the near future. And so they don't want to stop their learning. So that's what we did. And also, we made that decision on the basis of things like, they may not be an immediate lead because obviously they have no need for us at the moment.
Right.
But down the track, when they get their new position and everything, they might hold us in good esteem as such, because we were one of the ones that would allow them to come and join us. So little things like that. Although it seems a little change, and it is, it literally took us 2 minutes to take that, that barrier off, that block off. It's going to give us a long-term, I don't want to say headache, not a headache, but it's going to make things a bit more difficult. And we have to work out at some stage when we're going to stop that as well, and when we're going to go just back to business addresses. So that's just one example of the differences that, and the need for adaptability when you're doing the online conferences. And we at Holistic, we do lots of online webinars and conferences. We've got panel session and everything. So we've found that it's great because people are there, they're by themselves. It's almost like I think, you said there was a bit of an uptake, and I think there's quite a bit of an uptake, because instead of getting that social interactivity that they're getting by going to the office every day or by going to a conference, they would normally go to 2, 3, 4 conferences a year, they're not getting to do that anymore. So the online is the only way to do it. So there is definitely an uptake. It's working out well, but if you are going to be doing it, you need to be really, really working all of this out, making sure you're collecting your commissions, correctly, and that yes, like you said, there's pros and cons for both, and it's really just a matter of understanding how they both work and how you're best to them. And again, so if you've got a lead gen. A webinar and you're collecting Yahoo addresses and Gmail addresses and everything, maybe it's not the right time to be actually calling them, even though they're consuming a lot of data. So when it comes down to lead scoring, they might be right up there with lead scoring, but that's simply because they haven't got a full-time job at the moment, and they're trying to enhance their knowledge and they're trying to prepare themselves for the next job, but they're not ready yet. Does that make sense? So you've got to take all of those kind of things into account.
Yeah. So based on this, there's another question that we will address maybe later in the interview. But before that, I wanted to ask about this, that you see, content definitely plays a very important role in email marketing. And this year, in 2020, we got to see that compassion is one factor that most of the email marketers were trying to address in their content.
Yeah.
So, do you see that this trend of being compassionate, showing empathy in the email, do you see this trend continuing, or how do you see this evolving towards a new side of email marketing content?
I do believe this is all part of the helpful marketing approach, and that's really, I personally, I don't want to think that they're just doing it for the now because they have to. I'm hoping, we all know that habits take a while to kick in, to learn, to embed themselves. And I'm hoping that this becomes a habit, and not only becomes a habit, but becomes something that they become quite passionate about, and that it therefore ends up being the way that they continue to market. That they don't just go back to, okay, great, we did that, pandemic over, and let's go back to our brand-centric marketing. I know that the brands who have been doing that empathy, compassionate, helpful marketing are actually getting great results, because it's making the brand more humane, more helpful. And there are lots of reports out there that are basically saying that more than ever during this time, what's happening is that people, consumers, are actually changing suppliers because of how they're being marketed to, how they're being serviced, how quickly the deliveries are, how good the customer service is. And again, further surveys have gone and said, have you changed? And people say, yes, I've changed suppliers. Are you going to stick with them, right? And they're saying yes, because they're not going to go back to their old supplier. Now, if the supplier that they change to, they change because, they're really pulling everything out. They've got great customer service. They've got that nice, compassionate tone of voice. They've got great quick delivery, free delivery, all of those kind of things. If they then say, okay, now back to normal, then they stand a chance to lose all of those new customers that they've just acquired during this time, because they've now become, run of the mill like everyone else. So I do think that, or I hope that marketers are actually learning, but it's not just for the pandemic strategy. It's a permanent one, which will give you better results.
True. So now that we have already talked about content, so another thing related to content that comes very closely associated with that is design. So I think in what I have read, heard, and seen is that there's a group of people who say that HTML design templates work well with colors and other things associated to it. Then there is another group which says that plain text emails also work well. So it's actually a two-part question. So the first part is, in 2021, which type of email do you see working well among the recipients? Number one. And number two is, lately there is this new trend of dark mode email templates. So how do you see that panning out? How do you see that taking a shape in the year 2021? Is it going to be popular? Is it? So there are these two. This is a two-part question in that case.
Okay, so let's take the first part first. Text versus HTML with images and colors and all the rest of it. I personally find that depending on the situation, the objective, the product, the actual database, there is no one silver bullet. There is no one answer. So I think that it's a case of testing. I'm a big advocate for A/B split testing, and I've done a lot of this with my clients. And in some cases, it's worked out that the text version comes, wins out, hands out. Another one is the HTML version, full on sort of more of a marketing one. Another one is slight hybrid. So you will still have, it will be HTML looks like text, but with just a couple of images. So it could be an image from, the account manager or something like that. So it's not overly marketing looking. So it's really, I know I hate to give this answer, but the answer is test. And I think they're both valid. I wouldn't rule out either of them at all. Obviously, if you're sending out in fact, do you know what? I mean, I've got a friend who sends out two friends that send out newsletters, and they're mainly text. It's HTML, but it's mainly text with just maybe one image, but it hasn't got a big header or anything like that. It's really quite simple, and it's the content itself that really, really draws you to it. It's not the visually, aesthetically pleasing like that, but the content is so good that that's what you look forward to. So that's what I would be saying about that. I hope that's okay. And the second one about the dark mode. So dark mode, I've got a lot of friends who are like over the moon about dark mode. And it's a funny thing because I used to be a web designer, so design is kind of like where I started off with email. And but I don't like dark mode, I personally. But
Okay.
that doesn't mean that I don't hold it in good stead, right? I believe that there is a need for it, and that's because my son, he has a need for it, and he geeked out on it big time. And if you look at, so he works with me. If you have a look at my screen and his screen, we've got very, very different settings, and that's because everyone is individual and unique. And so I quite welcome the fact that we are now allowing personalization to come in as far as getting your the kind of look and feel that you want, that resonates best and works best with your eyes, and and so I think it's great, but it's not, I wouldn't be touting it as being it's just absolutely amazing. I think it's brilliant, but I'm not going to geek out on it.
This dark mode and the light mode, I think the debate is more about on the psychological and the physiological perspective. Some people
Yeah,
say that dark mode is psychologically, it's a bit intimidating. Then there are other who says that the dark mode, it actually stresses the eyes lesser than the light mode or the
exactly.
bright mode. So it's
And
that, yes.
no, you go on.
Yeah, so I was just saying, like, there is also it's a tussle between which one is better. The HTML template is better, or the plain text is better. So here also there is a tussle between like two sides.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. So yeah, it's always a case of finding out what works best, with your audience, and yeah, checking it out that way, definitely.
Okay, and the next question, it talks about a very relevant topic now, that is work from home. So I have seen, like, this is another this is a big question that many articles and many you can say, many webinars have tried to address, is what is the best sending time. Now some people say that Monday is good, this time to this time is good, Tuesday is good, Wednesday is good. Some even go ahead and say that Thursday is good. But when someone
Mm-hmm.
is working from home, I think in such a situation all the days are equivalent to the best day.
Throw it
And
all out.
yes,
Throw research out. Yeah. I
and
mean, I
yeah,
go on.
and then some people used to say that we should send emails in the morning when the person is just opening the email, or in the evening when the person comes back from work and opens the email. But in work from home condition, I think the person can access the emails most of the times, I think.
Absolutely, absolutely.
So how
And
do you see this taking shape in 2021?
so again, I'm going to give you the standard answer, but it's a standard answer because I believe in it, right? So I've never been a huge advocate for those benchmark studies or those sort of trend studies, and go okay, because essentially how it works, if one report says okay, Tuesday at 10 a.m. that's the best time, we've studied thousands of different campaigns, and we found out that definitely gets the best opening time. That means everyone's going to be flocking to Tuesday, sending their campaigns Tuesday at 10 a.m. and it will very, very fast become the worst one. And that's why it hasn't stayed the same over the years. It's always changing. It's because everyone is going and moving and everything. It's a bit bonkers. So I'm not a person who actually follows trends anyhow, as in if someone's doing it, I'm not going to do it just because someone else is doing it or because someone has told me to do it, right? I'm going to test. I'm going to check to see what works best for my audience and everything. But I'm going to add beyond that as well. You need to understand what your objective is and what your success metric is for that particular campaign. So if you are simply just wanting to get opens, well then do a test, an A/B split test on what your currently sending time is. So maybe it's Thursday afternoon, and then you're going to be going and checking, right? And testing different times and different days and everything, and seeing what the difference is and if there's an uplift, if it's better. And if the open rate is your key metric, as in you are being rewarded on opens, and this often will only generally apply to like a publisher who actually makes money from opens, right? Then that's great. If, however, your goal is actually to get them to download, get them to buy, get them to register for an event or something, then just because they've opened, the time of open doesn't always resonate that that's going to be the time of conversion as well. So it just adds a little bit more complexity to it. So keep that in mind. I'm not saying throw the open rate out. That might be the best way and the only way that you can do it. And then we're going to be hoping that, you know, they will be following through and actually going through. But I mean, I've gone and done a lot of studies with my clients, and we've found that the key time when they open is not necessarily the same as the key time when they click and carry out the action that the desired action, right? And not only that, we've also found out those that tend to open aren't always those that go through and convert. So, or, you know, like the majority. So I would love to be able to say, here's the formula, this is what you need to do. But it all comes back down to A/B split testing, studying your data, and really, really understanding your audience and relating all of this back to your own objectives and what you want to achieve with that particular email. You might find out your newsletter being sent out is going to be better on one day in the morning, and then your soulless campaigns, which are actually, you know, just selling one product or focusing on one product, they're better sent at a different time. So we don't. And then when we relate this back to the change, everyone working from home, and like you said, it really comes back down to now, not everyone is in their office 9 to 5. You've got people working different hours. And I'm finding that is actually a bit of a struggle with a lot of people, because they're finding if they've never worked from home before, they tend to be working longer hours. So if you're business to business, you might find out you've actually got a longer reach with them. You're not just limited to an 8-hour day. So that's something also to be testing. And then if they're working from home, whereas they used to work from an office and they couldn't ever look at their personal emails, but now no one's looking over their shoulder, so they have the freedom to look at their personal emails at the same time. Yes, you might be getting different results, different opening times and everything. But the best thing to do, instead of sort of trying to think of it logically, logic is great. I'm a huge fan of logic. Sometimes in email marketing, though, logic fails because we're very much reliant upon our database, and our database is made up of humans, and humans aren't always logical, right? The bottom line. So just go and send out a test and see what works out best for the majority.
Okay. And this brings us to the next question that is related to automation. What is your take on email marketing automation for the year 2021? Like, email marketing automation has always been an integral part of email marketing. But do you see that in the year 2021, email marketing automation can be used in a more innovative way? So in order to make email marketing more engaging and more interactive and more meaningful at the same point of time?
Yeah, absolutely. I see marketing automation emails as being essentially very helpful emails. And that's really what we're wanting during 2021. It's what we wanted during 2020. We want to be helping our customers to achieve their goals and to get their needs met. And those marketing automation, or I prefer to call them lifecycle marketing, just basically because marketing automation is a very brand-centric term, and it makes you focus more on the technology, whereas lifecycle marketing makes you focus more on the customer, because you question whose lifecycle. oh, it's the customer's life cycle. And most marketing automation emails are very much based on the customer journey and the customer life cycle. And so therefore I like to sort of make it more focused on the customer journey, the customer themselves. So on that basis, I see them as being absolutely essential, and they're incredibly helpful. And I want to just state here and now, though, that they're not at all to be set and forget. A lot of vendors, when they first came out with the marketing automation emails, what they did was they said, set and forget, because they were really trying to sort of say, hey, you can set them up once and you never have to attend to them again, and they just work in the background and they make you revenue. And they work in the background and they make you revenue, but they really, really need to be checked, tested, refined, optimized. And in times like this, during, the pandemic, we really need to make sure that we have updated them accordingly. So if your deliveries are going to be delayed, then you either need to put in a new one stating that, or put in some messaging within all of your transactional emails and all of your, your lifecycle emails, wherever it's relevant, of course. So just making sure that, they're relevant for the context of the here and now. And so therefore I do believe that they're absolutely essential, but they're not to be set and forget.
Okay, so it's basically trying to make it more meaningful for the customer's journey, so that it's basically trying to see that a contact travels from the point of being a contact to prospect to a customer.
Well, that, and what happens in between. Have they only purchased once, but they've never purchased again? Okay, that's that's low-hanging fruit, and you need to be sort of reaching out to them. Or if they've made and that's where I would be putting in a second purchase program in place. And the easiest things, and the reason why the marketing automation or lifecycle emails work so well is because they are innately personalized. So they're personalized to that person at that particular time because of something they've done or something they haven't done. And so therefore, we all love the personalization, but we as humans love also to be recognized. And the fact that you as a brand understand that they've only made the one purchase. And, so that again is that little bit of recognition. It's a funny thing with humans is we are innately also quite lazy. So if we have our needs met by the brand, then, and that means little things, just those little things like that little simple recognition, that little bit of personalization, then that means that they're less likely to and we of course deliver them great products, right, and service, then they're less likely to move over to a competitor because of they are what's the word? They understand that they have to, if they'll move to a competitor, they now have to retrain that customer. So if you are doing a great job, and I really believe that the life cycle marketing emails, the marketing automation emails, really are a form of customer service. And I think we need to be understanding, looking at them, thinking of them like that. Of course they do sales. That's a lot of what their purpose is, aside from the transactional ones. But if we can start to look at them as being that helpful, that customer service-based ones, that we're helping them, then suddenly they take on a different, a different voice and a different tone altogether, and they're really, really palatable and engaging for the customer.
Actually, regarding email marketing automation, one thing that I have always thought was that since they are very unique for each and every contact, they themselves are also unique because they use the concept of time and behavior and they give it the most importance, time and behavior.
Yes.
It's because time itself is a constant subject. At the same point of time, delaying it makes it very personalized for each and every contact.
Exactly.
And behavior is very specific and unique to each and every contact in that own way.
Yes. And what is the saying with email marketing? It's we need to give them timely and relevant information. That's why marketing automation emails fit, that they hit the nail on the head right there. That's it. They meet that criteria. So yeah, it's good.
Okay, so moving on to the next question, that is, we have seen that feedbacks and survey campaigns, they have been very integral in case of understanding the email recipient. Now, understanding the email recipient itself is basically gathering data to some extent.
Yes.
Now, gathering data, but along with that, every email marketer will always look for that extra bit of data that can be achieved. And that can be achieved only with the help of feedback or survey campaigns. Do you see that feedback and survey campaigns will still hold that similar relevance, or they are going to be used in some new way, or some newer techniques or newer innovations are going to be included or altogether used in order to gain that extra bit of data that can be fetched from the email recipients in order to track their ever changing tastes and preferences and also other things associated with them?
So, okay, there's a lot to unpack there, but essentially the way I see it, so we're really talking about personalizing. We're talking about using the data that we have, and there are survey after survey after survey where it says, the consumers say, I don't mind giving data to companies as long as they use it to benefit me, right? So therefore they're generally happy as long as we are delivering the goods, and we're not just sitting on it and we're ignoring that data. So I think that I like a layered approach, and there's three main types of data, and there's the informed data, and that's the data that you gain via a survey, right? So whether it's a preference center, whether it's the original form that you're using, whether it's an actual survey and you've questioned them and they've actually answered and replied, that is the informed data, right? And that's a great place to start. But a lot of companies don't actually have that data. Sometimes they might just say, sign up to our newsletter. The person hasn't bought anything yet, and they haven't got anything other than an email address and maybe the country or something. So they sort of go, I can't do any personalization, but you can, because you are now you can observe their actions. You can observe their behavior, where they're going on the website, what they're clicking, all of that kind of information. So you can be using that in addition to and layering that on top of that preference center or that survey data. And then, of course, you've got the contextual data. And the contextual data is, the geolocation, the device that they're using, the weather that's happening today and everything like that. So if you can layer those three main kinds of data on each other, then you're onto a winner, basically. But also understand, though, the survey or preference data or anything like that, it can often get stale. So, and that's why often the behavioral data, and even better than just behavioral data. So you don't want to say, what did they do 3 months ago? What did they look at 3 months ago? Real-time personalized data or real-time data, behavioral data. That's what's really, really effective, because that's helping you to help them with their immediate need in the here and the now. So I think that there's definitely a place for all of the different types of data. Survey data is not going to go away. I think I think we as brands need to be leveraging and start using that very intelligently as well. So it may not necessarily even be a specific ASM, but it might be sort of saying how we, what kind of things like, you can be testing these as well, right? You can be testing, do they prefer free delivery, or, do they prefer to pay for delivery? And it will depend on, but they get a cheaper price, right? So it will depend, but on the actual brand. It will also, I find, in my testing, I found it depends on where they are in their life cycle.
So the next question is about e-commerce. As you can see, that e-commerce is an industry that went through certain changes during the year 2020. And what happened was that when many of these festive season sales like Black Friday sale and Cyber Monday sale and Small Business Saturday sale, all these sales couldn't actually take place in a very face to face manner. Like people didn't queue up outside the shops, and stores were not open in that way. So these things were because there were some restrictions. Now uncertainties might have happened last year, and uncertainties can again happen in future. So these uncertainties have opened a newer avenue for e-commerce industries. So they could use email marketing, and they could actually utilize it in a much better manner. Do you have any tips, or do you have any suggestions for e-commerce industries so that they can embrace these changes and uncertainties in future, and can use email marketing in a much better manner as they're going on using it?
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, as you say, there's lots of surveys, lots of reports and research have been done stating that more people are online than ever before. Email is the workhorse. Email is basically it's more needed and necessary than ever before. For those who are using, who are sort of not necessarily a fait with email, and only you sort of want to email them during sale time, I personally would recommend not to just email them during sale time, but to actually keep a consistent relationship with them. And that may mean the whole idea is using data, understanding when they've purchased, why they've purchased, and all the rest of it. If you see that in 3 months' time they've only ever purchased during the sale time, they haven't opened and they haven't clicked any further, then that doesn't necessarily mean they don't like your product anymore. It just means that they're only going to be buying during sale time, or when there's a gift-giving need or something like that. So that just means that you want to be putting them on a different sort of strategy, basically a different marketing plan, messaging plan, so that you are still communicating with them on a regular basis, maybe not as regular as you would be communicating with your
Regular customers,
your
more active
most active
customers.
customers. Exactly. But just because you want to have that little sort of place of sort of plant the seed, you want to be there so that when they're ready, they think of you because you're top of mind, because you're still in their inbox. But you don't want to be in the inbox so much that you're actually getting them irritated.
Yeah.
So little things like, I call them surprise and delight type campaigns, and they're helpful ones. They're tips and tricks. They're things like that. Anything to do with your not just even specifically the type of products, but you can even go upper level, and as long as they're engaging and helpful, then you'll build a loyal audience, so that when the next time they're ready to buy, they will be thinking of you. And this is the key thing. And also, not only that, but certainly if you're new to email marketing, then if you're only sending out during the sale time, then you could very well have deliverability issues as well. So you have to build up a relationship with the ISPs, and they have to identify that you are a good, consistent sender who's getting good results and all the rest of it. And this is why the sending frequency is very much an art, and it really is a case of you testing and trying something out, looking at your deliverability, looking at your results, your opens, your clicks, your conversions, average order value, all the rest of it. So look at everything, your unsubscribes, your complaints, your spam complaints, and then you make informed decisions based on that, and try a different tactic than if it wasn't good. So as with any of the channels, you need to be a specialist, and you need to be dedicated, and don't just sort of go, oh, we've got to send out an email and then just shoot it out, because you'll probably be disappointed, and so will possibly your audience. So but I think that there's a huge potential here for all the new brands that have come online and started using email marketing. I think you're going to be sold on it for the future. Even when all the shops open up, it's going to become a permanent, part of your marketing strategy, because you're going to be seeing that the rewards are there. So
Okay. So, uh, like, since you already talked about engagement throughout the year, my next question, coincidentally, is based on this particular point. Now, there are a few email marketers who always believe that, I don't know whether they believe it or not, but rather they do practice seasonal email marketing. That is, they will send emails during certain seasons. And they basically rely mostly on re engagement campaigns.
Right.
As we saw, however, the last year, that re-engagement campaigns might take a different shape in the years to come because of uncertainties. What is your message again for these seasonal email marketers who rely on re-engagement campaigns, and how do you see re-engagement campaigns shaping up in the future?
Yeah, so again, the more personalized you can make a re-engagement campaign, the better, right? So if you can refer to what they've purchased in the past and similar products or products that they might like and everything, then that's going to hold you in good stead. But again, I would reiterate what I said before. I would personally be avoiding just doing those seasonal campaigns. I think you need to have that relationship with them all through the year, albeit on a less frequent, timing. And so, start planning it that way. I think that you're setting yourself up for a huge amount of challenges if you're just doing that, because the ISPs are going to look at you and say, okay, well, what are you doing? Who are you? Why are you sending such a big volume? Because ISPs do not like to see big spikes.
Yeah,
They
true.
like
Exactly.
consistency. So
Because
the
there
more
are, I think this also happens because they suddenly start sending out bulk emails also
yes.
during the time
Yes.
of seasonal campaigns.
Well, see, that's it. And if people aren't expecting it,
Yeah.
then that's when the spam complaints come as well. So, so when the ISP see a large spike, a big spike like this, and they're not really familiar with you, you haven't got great history, or you haven't got any history except for maybe a year ago, and then all of the spam complaints come from the users, the recipients, because they're kind of like, oh, I can't remember who this brand is. They bought a product from you a year ago, so you're not top of mind. You're not going to get great results. So the best thing to do is to start emailing them more regularly, and I don't mean 3 times a week. I mean sort of just frequently, but not overly so. So just to sort of place that little seed in the mind. And even if they just see your emails, and because they're not relevant for them at this particular time, just the fact that they've seen your branding in the subject line, your branding and the subject line is going to help you in future when they go, oh yeah, that's right. No, I need that product now. So.
Okay. And now finally moving on to the last question of the day, that is, as email marketing enters 2021, and there is the entire year ahead left for the email marketers, what are those 3 necessary things that you would want the email marketers to keep in mind while continuing their email marketing, and also to see to it that they fetch better engagement and they make their email marketing more interactive? In like, to be complete, what are those 3 necessary things to make email marketing more successful for an email marketer in this year for 2021?
Okay, so I would, just in a nutshell, really quickly, I would call upon that helpful marketing. So really put your customer first and foremost. If you put your customer first and foremost, then they're going to achieve their goal. If they achieve their goal, you achieve yours. It's a really nice, sort of a symbiotic relationship as such. So that is what you really need to be doing. A/B testing is really essential, because things are not as they used to be. And so you're starting with new data, you're starting with new customers, you're starting with, different circumstances and contexts than you would normally. So what you knew isn't necessarily going to be relevant for the here and now. So you need to test that out. Some things will be the same, some things will be different. And then the third one would definitely be personalizing as much as possible. And that kind of falls into the helpful marketing type thing too. But helpful marketing, I want to be really looking sort of more at that tone of voice, that really focusing on your customer rather than focusing on we've got a sale, we as a brand. So the personalization, use personalization as much as possible, and make them feel like, oh, okay, so I've got, they kind of know me. So that'd be my 3 key things.
Okay. Thank you so much, Kath, for this interview. And I'm sure that the information and the insights that you have provided, the feedback regarding email marketing of 2020, and also the suggestions for the year 2021 that you have given will definitely help our email marketers a lot. I would like to thank you once again. And thank you.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me on the program. Thank you.
Thank you.